Welcome to the Tech 1-2 podcast. I'm your host, John Kampas. Today we'll be discussing co-managed IT. I'm also joined today with Andrew Bochantin.
Hey, John.
Hey, what's up, man?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you very much for inviting me to this awesome podcast.
Man, I love it. Thank you. I mean, the knowledge that we're going to be able to share today is something that I know so many businesses out there need. So,
Absolutely.
Very happy to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited as well. So we got some great content today on co-managed IT. It's something that we talk to our clients all the time about. I'm just curious. I'm gonna start off right away with a question because I know this is a good one for you. A lot of our listeners are probably wondering, what exactly is co-managed IT?
Well, co-managed IT, it comes in many different flavors for organizations, but many organizations have an internal IT department or someone who's responsible for IT. Working with an external party to help them co-manage the environment really helps them bring a lot of benefits to the organization, which we'll talk about today, but it's really about just improving the overall technology for an organization by utilizing a partner as part of the IT program.
Okay, great. So, for example, if there's certain skill sets that a team might not have, that would be a great time to bring in a partner to help them out in those areas.
Absolutely. I mean, that's very common. That's a common issue that organizations face, either due to capacity or just due to skill set. You know, there's so much that's going on. There's so many risks that are happening out there, cybersecurity risks, cloud transformations, and organizations may just not have the time to do the things that they really want them to do to give them that competitive edge.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that. I know that that's probably the burning question when someone saw this topic today. Well, co-managed IT sounds cool, but what is it? So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, co-management, it's really about utilizing a partner. You know, we deal with customers all the time. They'll have an internal IT team, and they really want that trust and that partner to work with in order to help them achieve the goals that they have, you know, to really help them, give them that competitive edge and to grow and improve the overall technology. So co-managed IT is something we're seeing a lot of.
Yep.
Just over the last year, a lot more of than we've seen in previous years, and we expect that that's just going to continue.
Absolutely. I mean, just from, we've been doing this a long time, and there was a time when a lot of our clients had no clue what even managed services were. We know that's long since changed, but they're asking those questions now. I know I need to be compliant. I know I need to have IT governance. I know that I need to make sure my infrastructure is stable and that we're doing the things that we can do with technology. But do I need to have that all internal? Or can I find a partner that can give us either all or some of that to augment the team that I currently have?
Well, I mean, from what we've seen out in the market, both, SME, small, medium-sized enterprises, mid-market, where it's really a decision organizations need to make because, at a point in time, it was always I had my IT guy.
Right.
And my IT guy, it was expected that IT guy would literally do everything.
Mm-hmm.
But as time has gone on and as technology has evolved, it's become much more complex. So organizations that may have internal IT teams that are operating and they're maintaining the business the way that the business needs currently, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's aligning with what the business needs in the future. So it's really looking at buy versus build as well. You know, there's a lot of challenges that organizations face just in staffing and recruiting. I mean, like we do.
Right.
It's not easy to staff and recruit for certain positions that you have. So if you're a business that has an internal IT team today, mm-hmm. and you may not be in the business of IT, but you have that need internally, what better way to extend the capabilities and capacity of your team through a trusted partner?
Absolutely, for sure. So gone are the days of the generalist, right? Being able to handle the entire environment.
Absolutely. I mean, when we see that with, IT specifically, it's like a general practitioner. You wouldn't go to your general practitioner and ask him to do open heart surgery on you. Well, maybe you would.
Well, what's that going to result in?
Exactly. I mean, the outcome is probably not going to work in your favor. So when you're looking at an IT generalist, and the IT teams, these internal teams are looking for help.
Sure.
And having management and executives, C-suite support the initiative of co-managed IT, some of our most successful relationships have been with internal teams that we're just extending and augmenting the efforts that that they have, because we truly win together and we lose together.
Right.
So when you break down any barriers of communication and you improve the collaboration between an internal team and an external team, such as a managed service provider or any other type of external team, and you bridge any type of bridge the gap, then you can really improve the overall collaboration, communication, and the end result and outcome for the organization.
Absolutely. And something you said there actually, spurred something in my mind. Are we? I know I've been seeing it, but I'd love to get your read on it. I mean, we're seeing more often than not more specialization required, right? Not just one size fits all. There are definitely many more needs than organizations have ever faced that require areas of specialization, whereas before you could get away with somebody that had a rudimentary knowledge about your network systems and was great at help desk support. But today, with the growing need for cybersecurity, we're finding that's simply not the case. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree. I mean, just the risk alone associated with trying to protect and safeguard the organization is far greater than an organization even fathomed. They just never expected that there would be so much risk with connecting your systems into a digital environment. And they may have a team of fantastic help desk people,
Right.
Level 1, level 2 support. But those same staff members, it could either be just due to the capacity, they don't have the time because they're supporting users. Who's protecting the back of the house?
Sure.
When we look at the threats that organizations face today, it's not just the external threats, it's the internal threats that organizations face. Unknowingly, users present some of the biggest challenges.
Right.
So imagine having an internal team today that's involved in the day-to-day operational support of the organization. Who's going to drive the training, the strategy, the safeguards, implement any type of mitigation required in order to protect the organization from any type of cyber attack? It's probably not those same people. But what we've seen are those same people, they're great at doing what they were doing. They absolutely love working with organizations that can really, imagine, think of the peace of mind that they now have. This is something that troubles them. We know this. Now, whether or not they've voiced this concern to their leadership, we know that this is a concern that likely keeps them up at night. Well, I'm responsible for IT. I'm responsible for fixing the person's computer. I'm responsible for fixing the printer. I'm responsible for keeping the network up and running. I'm now responsible for some cloud technology. I'm now responsible for maintaining risk. There's just too much.
Right.
So the specialization is absolutely required because it's not just general IT that you need to worry about anymore. You have distributed workforces. You have all these additional risks. You have compliance. Internal teams likely cannot handle that unless it's a very deep and specialized team.
Yeah. So you mentioned compliance, an area where I think a lot of it's a great term, but IT governance. Can you tell us a little bit about what IT governance means and why that is so difficult to find in even your best general IT team?
Well, IT isn't always responsible for every piece of technology that organizations use. You hear of shadow IT. Shadow IT is technology that's being introduced without the knowledge of anybody who's in an IT role has.
Right.
It's so simple to log into a site, download a trial or set up a trial, 14-day risk-free trial, and now your information is being, your company data is now being stored on servers and cloud technologies that you don't even know about. So having a good IT governance plan where IT is responsible for all aspects of IT, not just, again, operational, but also strategic, it's important to really help that organization drive through a good IT governance program to help align the technology with what that organization needs today, manage and mitigate the risk, but also align it with what that organization is going to need in the future.
Sure.
So by governing and controlling, having full control over IT and technology that's funneled through the IT role or IT department is something that organizations when implemented properly, see some tremendous benefits of efficiencies, productivity, integrity of data, communications of systems, and just overall growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that because I think that's an area, that's obviously a term everybody's talked about, but The reason why I asked it is because that's, I think, what I'm seeing most frequently when we're talking to clients, more and more request of just that, IT governance. Look, we know that technology touches all aspects of our business. In addition to that, we're seeing a lot more requirements placed upon our clients and organizations that we're working with from their clients, right? So their clients are now being pressed to say, hey, what do you do in terms of policy in these areas? And so a lot of that's pushing upstream to their team to say, hey, we got to answer these questionnaires, these security questionnaires, and if we can't, we're potentially losing that relationship. So that's why I asked it, because it goes back to what you talked about. A lot of times, it's not with ill intention that a team member, especially a dedicated staff member, an IT member of the organization, it's not with ill intention that they're maybe not doing these things, but because they are now faced with something that maybe has them out of their depths, they're really trying to figure out, how do I do this for the organization?
I mean, absolutely. When you look at just the supply chain risks that organizations face today, and I know we're not talking too much about supply chain today, but it is real.
Right.
And it is an area that is a gap that organizations face that they may not be able to fulfill internally. So again, aligning with the right partner is something that is critical to the success of the organization. So supply chain risk is, I'm working with a partner. Partner has a certain security posture that they want all organizations that they work with to also adhere to.
Right.
Well, what happens in most scenarios? Most scenarios, the organizations do not align with that same security posture. So what happens? Your biggest client, biggest partner now sends you a questionnaire, and now you're scrambling.
Yep.
You're scrambling because you don't know how to answer it. Your biggest revenue generator is at jeopardy right now because
Correct.
they've given you a timeline. Well, who's going to implement all that? Now you have this internal IT team. And again, we love working with internal IT.
Sure.
We absolutely do. IT directors, IT managers, level 1 through 3 support, developers. We love working with them. But they have certain things that they're responsible for. Risk and compliance may not be part of that.
Sure.
You may not have a chief security officer or compliance officer within the organization. Well, how do you fulfill that need now that your clients and partners have now mandated that you need to adhere to that? Well, what happens? Most companies, they'll get a questionnaire. They don't know how to answer it. They're just going to answer it blindly. And then, God forbid, something happens.
Yep.
Something happens within our organization. That's what, we see the co-management side of it. It's, from a capacity perspective, from a risk perspective, cybersecurity, and just extending that team is something that we're seeing growing so rapidly within all types of businesses. This isn't just the Fortune-sized organization.
Right. Not just mid-market or enterprise.
This
even
is
small and medium-sized businesses.
Exactly. Because again, even a small, medium-sized business, even if they had an IT role, or maybe this IT role was a shared role with some other role. It was the accountant, but now let's say Bill or Jane were the best at IT, and now they became the IT person as well.
Right.
As you can imagine, and organizations have now seen this more and more, that person cannot fulfill all the obligations of IT.
Absolutely.
IT is not just, person under the computer plugging in the person under a desk plugging in a computer and getting it set up. It now extends far beyond that and has become a responsibility that organizations need to address from a liability perspective and
Absolutely.
exposure perspective.
I was just about to say that. There's a lot more at stake than ever before. Saying that you can do something and not actually doing it, that presents a real risk to most organizations. And from an ownership standpoint, from a key stakeholder and decision maker standpoint, there's no doubt that that's what keeps them up at night. How am I going to be at risk, and how can I be compliant? We talk to clients all the time. We had a meeting last week where that was the biggest concern. We're growing. We want to scale. How do we scale from 100 to 200 when the reality is our clients are going to be putting more demands on us to make sure that we're compliant? And how can I confidently say that we're able to be compliant? So that brings me to a really important question. What would you identify are the key advantages to going to co-management? And perhaps follow up to that is what is the identifier of a really good co-managed partner? So what am I going to get as an organization, and what do I need to be looking for in that right partner?
Well, first off, I mean, with any type of partnership, there needs to be trust. I mean, you need to understand what the core capabilities are of that organization or partner,
Yep.
and have they done it before? You don't want to look at somebody and start working with a partner who hasn't done it before and it doesn't have a proven track record. There's many organizations out there that may say co-managed IT, but in all reality, it might even be just more of a break-fix approach. So it's truly alignment. How much of an alignment, how much alignment will the partner provide to you with the internal team so that the teams feel that they're truly an extension of each other and they understand that they win together and they lose together? Because, again, if the internal team or the external team, the co-managed team, is failing, it's not, oh, they failed. It's we all failed.
Right.
You have to look at ownership and extreme ownership from your partner to understand that the role that they play into the IT program and how important it is for the organization.
Yeah, a lot at stake, right?
There's so much at stake, and if it's a finger-pointing game, you find yourself in a situation where you're having conversations and the partner's saying, well, that's your team, and it's not saying it's us.
Right.
It's a we conversation. It's not a me, it's a we conversation. It's not, oh, they did something wrong and we didn't do anything wrong. It's got to have extreme ownership. Because that's what you would expect. If you were to hire all these people, a team of 20, 30, 40, 50 people, whatever that number is, that's now providing you the specializations that you need, you would never expect them to not take ownership and be accountable for their actions. So it's truly being part of a single team and looking at that. When we look at opportunities where organizations will often find it, let's just look at it from the IT side first. I'm in an IT role.
Yep.
In a organization, it could be a law firm, any type of business, manufacturing, healthcare,
Regardless of
financial-
size.
Regardless of size.
Right.
I'm expected to operate IT. Now, whether I'm a team of 1, 3, 5, 10, 20, my team, I am now responsible for operating IT.
All thing that technology.
Everything IT.
Right.
I mean, it's literally everything. Anything that has any type of technology associated with it.
Even new applications, right?
goes
New
IT.
application comes up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and not only new applications. Now we're expected to sit down budgeting. We're expected to sit down to manage risk. All these things that perhaps we weren't equipped to do previously.
Right.
And I'm also responsible for supporting the operation 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So
No downtime.
No downtime, and I'm expected to be available 24 hours a day. Let's just say I'm a single IT director. I'm an IT manager, and I'm supporting an organization of 100 people. I'm responsible for that.
Yeah. Commonly what we'd see,
Yeah.
right, for an organization that size.
Exactly. Who's going to handle my PTO? Who's responsible when I'm out of the office? Planned office or unexpected? I need someone that I can rely on.
Right.
So one of the most immediate benefits that an organization is going to face from an IT role is now they have an extension. They've just now increased their capacity. So let's say that IT manager that normally works 8 to 5, but we all know anybody in IT, you don't only work 8 to 5. But now I have a team that can operate for me 24 hours a day. So instead of having to wake up at 2 a.m. when something happens because I'm worried about when the people are going to come in at 8, and I'm always going to be stressed out and worried about what's happening in the environment and what threats are taking place, who's trying to hack my network, are the servers up and running? I now have a team that can identify, triage, and resolve those problems for me. So as an IT role, I've now extended my capacity and capabilities of what our IT team now does, and it's more predictable for me.
Right.
From an organization, that's just a very common one that we would look at. From an organization perspective, some of the areas is, we want to migrate to the cloud. We have skills. We have a team today that manages everything for us. Fantastic.
Right.
The operations.
All on-prem, though.
On-prem.
Right.
There's a skill required for that. So from an organization perspective, we're on-premise today, which on-premise works for many organizations.
Still may make sense.
Yeah, there could be a hybrid. There could be a cloud only. But as an organization, I may now be limited to the core competencies and knowledge of my internal team, which would prevent me from looking at other options, because when cloud comes up as a conversation point, well, cloud is not an option.
Right. because there may not be the understanding or knowledge behind what it takes to properly migrate.
Exactly. So because they don't have the knowledge for that, it doesn't mean that they're not good people, right? And they don't know technology.
Or that it might not be a good option for that business.
Exactly.
They just might not have the skill set capable of delivering.
Yeah, and you promote and you want to implement the things that you're knowledgeable about.
Sure.
Right? If I'm good at doing something, I'm like, yeah, cloud is fantastic. If I'm good at, a Windows operating system, that's the best operating system that exists. But it's really about expanding the knowledge outside of the four walls of the office.
Right.
So from a leadership perspective, an organization really needs to look at if they've made this investment in internal IT and they're like, you know what, this is the approach that we're taking. We have internal IT and it's fantastic and they're doing a great job. They do great desk side support. Everybody knows each other. They're very reliable.
Everybody loves them.
Yeah, everybody loves them.
Right.
But you have to elevate, because if you don't elevate your IT program, at some point it becomes stagnant.
Sure.
And if it's not moving upwards, the only way is down. Mm-hmm. So organizations, this is something that even recently when we went out and met with a client and they had all this equipment, it was aged. Mm-hmm. Remember? And they had these issues and challenges. They wanted a distributed workforce. And people during the pandemic had to come to the office.
Yep.
Not because that was a policy. It's that, it's either
they had no
we're working
alternative.
or we're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's what happens. Things oftentimes may get dated. Mm-hmm. They might not be moving things forward, and they could fall behind to the competition as well.
And absolutely, to be 100% clear, where we see more often than not is it's not with malintent. These are individuals that really believe in and want to push the organization forward, and in most cases are trying to do the investigation necessary to offer those alternatives. But what we see more often than not happen, and we see this happen more frequently, and it's really impactful for the business, is the business then is limited based on their ability to research, how quickly they can research, their ability to take that chance, make that move. And so oftentimes what we're seeing when it comes to a co-management side of it is they do these things really great, but maybe not these areas. So how can we bring in a partner that can help us in that area? Mm-hmm. So what I definitely heard is redundancy, strategy, and the ability to take advantage of technologies that may not be either their current team may not be aware of, or they may have never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, things are changing across the industries. I mean, and it's not very specific, but across technology as a whole, if you were to look at technology 10 years ago to today,
right.
I mean, it's drastically changed, and that's only continuing to change. So staying up to date on the trends of technology and how those trends can really amplify and improve a business, that's something that we can bring that strategy, not just as EMPIST, but
right.
just as any
the right co-managed partner.
The right partner, the right technology partner. By integrating the right technology partner, an organization can see tremendous return on investment of that, because it's really going to take them from where they're at today. They're going to look at a future state, mm-hmm. and then they're going to understand what that future state could look like. But the only thing limiting them perhaps to that future state or where they need to be might be capacity or knowledge. So being able to bring that as a partner, and a partner that you can trust, are tremendous benefits to an organization.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was some pretty amazing information. I totally agree that those are areas where we can certainly benefit and help the organizations that we work with, but organizations are looking for that level of change.
Absolutely. When you look at even just escalations, so you have your internal team. Something might be more complex than something they've ever dealt with in the past.
Right.
They may encounter something tomorrow. Who do they escalate it to? Who do they communicate to? As leadership as well, it's really empowering your team as well to know that they have a partner that they can work with. So regardless if you're going to the cloud or making some transformational changes within the organization, it's always good to have a partner in your pocket, a partner that you can work with, mm-hmm. that your team now knows that your team can reach out to, another partner that can work with them to address whatever problem or request that they may face. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is if I'm a smaller team in-house, I'm limited to the knowledge and capabilities that we have. So if we're dealing with something for the first time and I don't have someone that I can reach out to, that team may feel like they're drowning.
Yep.
And the end result could be very bad or catastrophic for the organization if they don't act in a timely manner from a cybersecurity perspective, even from a daily operations.
Mm-hmm.
I've never dealt with something. I'm an IT guy. I've never dealt with something, and it's impacting productivity or my team, a user of
Right.
the organization. Well, who's being impacted? The user.
Well, the whole organization.
whole-
But for sure, that user is either struggling alone in silence or making a lot of noise about what they're not capable of doing. But at the end of the day, it's the organization suffering. So that actually brought up an interesting point that you said that. What are the risks of doing this? Is how we've always done it. What are the risks to an organization of just saying, okay, I got a team, I know they're good. I'm wondering if I can get more out there. What are the risks by not exploring those types of alternatives or options?
Well, I think, the risk of saying that we've always done it this way.
This is how we've always done it.
You know how my opinion.
That's
That's
taboo.
death.
That's taboo
Yeah.
at our
Yeah.
this is how we always done it. Stop right there.
Yeah, that's death to a company.
Right.
For anyone who ever would say that, okay, we're doing this process, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, that just keeps you closed-minded. It doesn't allow you to really expand, and it ends up costing an organization a tremendous amount of money and lost productivity and likely even revenue because they're just stuck to their own ways.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want change, you need to change.
Right.
If,
Talk about that all the time.
Yeah, if an organization wants more, they want to do more, at some point there needs to be a change and being open to looking at other options.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as we've said, I think we've said it many times today, we love working with internal teams.
Absolutely.
And some of our best relationships are with internal teams. But when we're looking at it just by, we've always done it this way, that's going to limit the organization's growth potential.
Yep.
And likely at some point find them where the risk is unmanageable for them and they're reactive to a very bad situation.
Yep.
So just learning more and educating yourself on what else is available is something that you should do regardless of how you've been doing things. I mean, education is key. Learning about new things that are happening in market, within your industry, within different trends of technology. These are things that you should always stay educated on so that you can make informed decisions on what may be best for the organization.
Absolutely. And you touched on two things that, again, just come up so frequently. You have an internal team. They're really great at what they do. They're excellent at the technologies that they know. To a point, right? So where is the overall or overarching accountability, shall I say, around ongoing training, right? So even in technologies that I understand, we see this happen all the time. We see the technologies that they're supporting, the Cisco, the Microsoft, the various platforms, the specialized applications. Those are evolving as well. So would you say it's really important to know that the team that is supporting your environment is also interested and dedicated to getting the necessary education, ongoing education, and certifications that demonstrate that they understand the change within those platforms?
I mean, absolutely. You know our position on training as an organization. I mean, training and education is so key
paramount
to the growth.
Yeah.
It needs to be aligned with what the organization needs. But one of the things that often happens within internal organizations, and who's directing the internal team.
Right.
Oftentimes that that team may report to someone who
has no capability of really even understanding what does the certification or training path look like.
Yeah, or assessing the current skill set, and then also aligning and building an employee maturity model for that person so that they can continue growing within that organization, which in turn would provide more value to the organization. It's like the saying goes, it's training. Oftentimes we hear from organizations and they say, well, we don't want to train the team because if I train them and give them the certification, well, what if they leave?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's like, as you've heard, well, what if I don't train them and they stay?
Yeah, exactly. We've talked about that a lot.
What's
worse?
Yeah. So I don't want to train someone because I think they're going to leave because if they get a certification, but what if I don't train them and they stay? Who is being impacted more? The reality is the organization because there's untapped potential of those team members that can drive the organization forward. So technology is it's complex.
Yeah.
Things are evolving very rapidly. Things are changing constantly, especially with cloud technologies, AI, machine learning, everything.
Yeah.
Development, software as a service. I mean, there's
What
just
the cloud even means.
exactly. So how do you keep your team up to speed with the evolving trends? It's very difficult to do that. Technology spans a great deal of operational support as well. It's not just, again, it's not the IT guy. He's my IT guy. He does everything. The reality is it's not. Like I said earlier, compare that to the medical field.
Sure.
There's specialization. Specializations are absolutely required. There's tremendous risks that organizations are facing. And internal teams are wanting this type of partnership
Yep.
because as an internal team, they want more support.
Absolutely.
They want more support. They want to be able to surround themselves with like-minded individuals that can even help them grow. And that's one of the tremendous benefits that we see from our organization.
Right.
We're surrounded by like-minded individuals that truly want to grow. They bring technology. They have a passion for that. So if you're limited as an organization by 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever size your team is, just know you can multiply that
Sure.
by working with the right partner that's bringing you that same type of value.
And it's been a great, this has been a great podcast. I mean, I love talking shop with you for sure. But the one last thing I definitely did want to just jump into and dive into is a lot of times businesses are saying, okay, what's this going to cost me? What is going to be the cost of the organization? Of course, we've already discussed what is the cost of the organization by not doing something like this, but what is the actual cost of the organization compared to do I grow out this team? The reality is, in many cases, it's a lot less with a lot more to gain. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree. There's every aspect of IT may not be a full-time position, but
Right.
you need that specialization. So if I need someone that's dedicated to, let's just say, risk and compliance, there may only be a certain number of hours that I need that person throughout the week or on a given day or over the month or the year. Well, if you're going to try to build that skill set internally, well, you're going to have a lot of downtime of that individual. So that potential, that budget and the potential of what that person could do may be limited because they're more of a specialist. But what they do when they do that compliance or risk assessment, they do a fantastic job at it.
Right.
They're great at that. So working with a partner that has all these skill sets, you can essentially pick and choose what you want
And when you want it,
and when you want it.
when you need it. So very elastic.
Exactly. And they're there when you need it so that you don't have to scramble when you unexpectedly needed something.
Right. Client demands it.
Yeah, client demands it. You need a risk assessment done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have, let's say I'm in leadership, I'm a CEO of another organization, and I need a risk assessment done. Who's going to do it? If I don't have someone with that skill set, I know that if I'm going to try to build that skill set now, it's going to take me a long time.
Sure.
And, with hiring, and finding the right candidates, something that all organizations deal with, how do you assess that that person is the right person too?
Yeah.
So if you have a smaller team and I'm the CEO and I'm not technical and I don't even know what the real scope of it is, how can I even interview you?
Right.
How can I assess your skill set? Let's say you're applying for that position. How can I interview that skill set?
Yeah.
I can't. I really
To
can't.
properly assess it, right? You don't know what it is that is the right candidate versus the wrong candidate.
You said the cloud, and I'm like, oh my God, you're an expert,
Yeah.
right? And you
Dropped enough acronyms to
you
make
threw-
me really
you
believe
threw
that you
out
know what
some-
you're talking about.
Exactly. So it is much more cost effective for an organization, but it's key to find the right partner.
Right.
You have to truly do your due diligence, evaluate, look at what they've done. Don't tell me what you can do. Show me what you've done. That's so important for an organization when you're doing your due diligence and assessing. What are their capabilities? What are their response times? What's their transparency? Transparency is key. if I use my systems and an internal team uses their systems and they're not communicating, then we've created now siloed teams.
Right.
That goes against
And or more complexity than we really needed.
and it goes against the philosophy and concept of co-managed.
Yeah.
Co-managed. We're both managing an environment. You have your responsibilities, I have my responsibilities, and collectively we now create the best IT program for the organization.
I mean, that's, you really hit so many great points. I feel like we could probably go for another hour on this topic because that just spurred 5 more questions. But I know we've kind of gotten to the point in this. I really appreciate you including me in this.
Yeah.
I love these kind of discussions. We're having these discussions all the time with our clients. So, to be able to have that together was awesome. So thank you very much for, including me in this. I'm always asking. John was my IT guy. Yeah. So, you got your IT guy. Yeah. You're always my IT guy. And what we built at EMPIST is a team of like-minded individuals. So very excited to be a part of it. And thank you for including me in this podcast today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us today for our Tech 1-2 podcast on co-management. Look forward to seeing you again very soon.
All right. Thank you.